So I've been working at an ISP for the past 6 months, pretty large one. And in that time, I've accumulated a lot of knowledge. But there are five things in particular. These are things that couldn't have been, no one could have really thought to tell me those things when I started on the job, except for one, which is about, I think, something about filling dead air, which I'll get to here in a minute. I think that these are things that can apply to every help desk job out there, even if it's not necessarily IT. These are really customer service things, but when you're working at a help desk and you have to deal with people, these things can be invaluable. The first thing is, at times it seems like you're not even working in IT. Now, for a help desk role, it's not really IT. There's a big difference between what the people who pass out the Microsoft Surface Pro tablets and laptops do and what I do, which is help people over the phone. But to me, it's being part of the IT industry. That being said, at times it doesn't even feel like I'm in that industry at all. At times it feels like I'm doing routine problem solving. I think this is something that happens no matter what IT job you're working. You get locked into the specific domain and you end up knowing how to solve those problems. It makes me think about security analysts and just going through false positives all the time. Something like that, something that you know how to do so well that you just automatically do it. It can get boring, but really you have to roll with it. No matter how many times I have somebody turn the device off and turn it back on again, I never get really tired of it. I enjoy it and I look forward to moving forward in my career, but just keep that in mind. It's not going to feel like IT a lot of the time. You're just going to be doing routine problem solving. This next one is something I was told by my trainer, and that's come up with a good routine for filling dead air. I mean, 6 months in, I'm pretty much used to it, and I've got a good flow going. I don't need, no real negative thoughts crossing my mind. But in the beginning, you start thinking, what is this person thinking? Are they getting upset? And it puts the pressure on you, and that pressure can lead you to make mistakes and start clicking all around. Like, say I'm trying to diagnose a Wi-Fi issue and it's all quiet, and instead of like going to where I need to go, I just start clicking this tab and this tab and this tab, like in the interface for their router. I think ultimately the golden ticket here is that the customer knows you're working on their problem, because if they know you're working on their problem and they know you're not messing around, then they're gonna remain pretty quiet. However, in the beginning, you don't really know how to get that across to them. So a couple of things that I relied on, I've got this nice clicky mechanical keyboard, and if they just hear you typing, they tend to think that you're actually doing something, but they like those clicks, right? Another thing is when I would open tickets, I know that for the next 3 minutes I'm going to be making this ticket, so I buy myself time by saying something like, okay, just give me 3 minutes here. Or I'd say, please bear with me for the next 3 minutes while I bring up your equipment. They'd be like, okay. Wouldn't hear anything out of them for the next 3 minutes, because they know I was doing something that was work related. Really, that's what it comes down to. If you can't fill the dead air in some way, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, when this whole building rapport thing, but if you can't fill the dead air in some way, try to find some way to get the customer to understand that you are doing your job. Another thing that I wasn't really aware of was to beware of building rapport, because you have no idea who's going to turn on you. This is not to say anything against customers. It's just, I had a very, bubbly personality, or a very kind of outgoing personality when I first started working. Thing was making small talk with people and interacting with people in a very friendly way. When they suddenly find out that they are not going to have internet services, phone services, television services for about 4 days, or potentially 4 days, they turn on you very quick, and it really sours the interaction. So I guess maybe just now I'm just very professional. I do make small talk. I'm not a jerk. I'm not like an introvert. I don't hold back, but I don't go above and beyond when I know if this person has to find out that their internet services are going to be down for a few days, they're just going to get really upset at me. It's an unpleasant feeling. And if I just go along with it and just guide them through professionally, treat them with basic respect, it's no big deal when I have to tell them it's going to be 4 days. I'm doing my job. And I do build rapport with people. I do build rapport if there's an opening for it. There are people who enjoy rapport, and I enjoy interacting with those people. So just be aware of who you build rapport with and what the implications could be if that rapport is suddenly destroyed when they're not happy with the news you have to give them. I think above all, after all the time I've worked there, the single most difficult thing is either getting the customer to realize that it's not our equipment that's at fault if they're using something else like their own router, or to reach out to the original manufacturer. For instance, if they're using an email program and they want us to troubleshoot it, it's far easier for them to turn to the manufacturer, since we're basically stumbling around blind trying to figure out what the interface is like. I have a friend I work with, and they told me at their previous job, which was also an internet service provider, that, I mean, they got it. It comes down to convincing the customer that we've done all we can do, and that the only thing that makes sense is to focus on their equipment, which means they're kind of left to their own devices. But if you can convince them, if you can make a case that you've done your due diligence and you've done X, Y, and Z, then you can get them to understand that you have done all that you can. For instance, whenever someone is using their own router and I want to roll out the possibility that it's our modem, I take them through all of the values that tell me that our modem is doing its job, and that based on what I'm saying, there's no possible way our modem could be at fault. It's not a 100% a foolproof method, but I've had a lot of success with it, success that I didn't have when I first started working there. Maybe it's the tone of my delivery, or maybe I've just gotten better interacting with customers, but I think there's a definite cause and effect here. It's just like, okay, the light level okay, because this is fiber, and are there any errors going back and forth over the modem to the router, to our offices, etc. And if they can comprehend that, they can kind of get the idea, yeah, it's most likely my equipment that's at fault here. Another thing is, you want to guide them to the original manufacturer. I spent a lot of time when I first started working going the extra mile because I thought it was the right thing to do. If I had the knowledge, just guide the customer through it. If I don't have to do that, and it's because it's not my role to diagnose another company's equipment. It's not my job to diagnose Netgear routers or TP-Link routers. TP-Link knows TP-Link routers. On our routers, I can go in, I can create Wi-Fi networks, I can see what devices are connected. I can't do that with a customer's own router. And when I tell customers this, they kind of get the idea. They know that it makes far more sense for them to reach out to the original manufacturer than it does for me to try and stumble around blindly and waste both our time, right? So far, having put that into practice, it really does work. And every so often I'll get somebody who doesn't want to go with it, but more often than not, when they realize that it's a much better option for them to contact the original manufacturer, things go over real smoothly. Finally, in this job, you just got to be ready to dig in your heels and press forward, especially when there's pushback from customers. The pressure is going to be on. A customer might not want to do something simple like unplug the HDMI cable from their television set. Even if they don't voice that, you feel like they're gonna lash out at you. And no matter how thick your skin is, it's never a pleasant feeling. Because you gotta brace, you gotta dig your heels in and get ready to, take the force of impact. Not always, you're just preparing yourself. That's part of life. That's part of this job, and you need to adjust to it. And just stay professional. And get ready to push through as hard as you can. And if you can't anymore, pass on the ticket, something, If you have to send that ticket on to the department that sends out technicians, just go ahead and do it. Don't kill yourself over this job, but, get thick skin. Get ready to push back when a customer doesn't want to work with you on a troubleshooting step, because the point is keeping our technicians from having to do unnecessary visits. I think above all, we really want to avoid that if we can. And that's pretty much it. Just 5 things that I've picked up working at a fiber ISP, might as well be any ISP, that really, if I had known them and applied them, it would have saved me a lot of headache. I think maybe you just have to go through them, but hopefully somebody out there working a help desk, working at an ISP, get a little bit of insight on how to handle the job. Maybe somebody who's new with the job. And I wish you all the best of luck. So I'll see you, pals.